I think it all has to change. We can't stay where we've been, and COVID was good for our industry because it pushed us to be a little more innovative, to realize that, hey, we don't have to take 5 years to do something. We can do things quickly. So I do think experience is going to be the number one thing. Adapting to what employees, how they want to do business with us. That's why it's fun, is there's constant change. I'm Jen Daniel, and this is the future of insurance.
Last May, I wrote a short piece about digitization and prioritization and the need for every insurance organization to step back and ask, what do we want the future state to look like? What do our customers need it to look like? If your organization has asked these questions recently and the answer sounds something like more digital engagement with customers, then you need to get in touch with Marble. Marble has built the first comprehensive programmatic engagement platform for insurance. What does that mean? Marble's suite of flexible and launch-ready APIs can deliver digital insurance wallets, rewards, and incentive programs, and more quickly. So, if you're a carrier, MGA, agency, or fintech offering embedded insurance and want to get even closer to your customer, head to marblepay.com/partners to get in touch.
Jen, it's great to sit down with you, and I have to admit, for me, this is a part of the market I don't get to spend, I was gonna say much, but probably any time in, except for like when you and I are on a panel together or something. But at the same time, I feel like everyone kind of knows Aflac, or at least knows the brand name, knows the duck. But do we actually really know what it is? So it's good to hear firsthand a little bit about Aflac and what's going on and how you're thinking about the way things are changing and the innovation that's coming into your space.
Yeah, well, Brian, you're not alone. So we actually have made a big effort to help people understand what is Aflac, because in the past, when we did surveys, people thought we were auto home, pet insurance, which we now have. But so yeah, you're not alone in that. So
I feel
Aflac's
like
actually more voluntary.
everyone's got pet insurance now. So like
Yeah, it's a hot
that's probably a
topic.
safe bet. Yeah. So, well, tell us a little bit about you, and then let's go into Aflac and your work there as well, because that's the reason why you're here.
Okay. I've always been in the benefit space, in the advertising major that landed insurance, which that's always my favorite question to ask insurance people is, how'd you get into this market?
Was it accidental for you as well?
Totally. It was
Yeah.
the only job I could get out of college because no one was hiring. So, okay, I'll go. I worked at Principal Financial Group. So, great job, great company, and I learned a ton. So I don't have any regrets. It's just wasn't kind of what I thought I was going to do. But have spent my whole career really around employee benefits and have a passion for helping employees understand their benefits, because I started doing enrollment meetings and then product development and marketing and sales, and now I'm back on the enrollment side, but from a technology perspective. And so at Aflac, really responsible for working with all of our platform partners that support our products and trying to help drive innovation within Aflac when it comes to technology solutions. It's a really fun space, and it's changing so quickly, not as quickly as we would like. But it is, we are making strides from at least an employee education perspective.
So when you say platform, I want to understand the space better. Is that
Okay.
like that's Aflac is on a given enrollment platform or an employee benefits platform as an option? So that's sort of like a distribution point for you. Is that how you would look at it?
Absolutely. Yep. So whether it's an HCM like a Ceridian or UltiPro, or it's a admin like a Business Solver, Plan Source, those are, to me, those are our clients. And so we're trying to make sure that we're easy to do business with them, because Brian, the selling of our products has changed. It used to be you go out and you sell on brand, you sell on product, features, and price. And now you go out and sell on how easy are you to do business with? Do you fit on the platform that we've already bought and spent a ton of money on? And can you give me the data to prove that our employees are using their products? I mean, it's shifted. And so we've had to shift with it.
Is that an API story mostly? Like how do you get into these platforms?
APIs is kind of here and forward. In the past, it's just been designing products that fit on the technology. And honestly, the platforms have come a long way. Because I was in that space for 10 years and watched the evolution of, okay, how do we support these voluntary products? Because all they did was medical at first.
Yeah.
And medical and voluntary are very different from an enrollment perspective. And so both the carriers and the platforms have had to change to say, how do we make this experience the best for the employees? And now there's a huge focus on like decision support tools. So when I'm in that platform, help me decide I don't know insurance. The average person doesn't know anything about insurance. So there's been a huge emphasis in how do we help them? How do we help them learn?
To me, it's really interesting, like in a sense, the separation from the end customer and their decisions. And I'm thinking more on the health insurance side, where it's kind of like, I feel like maybe health insurance people would disagree, but I feel like the health insurers almost don't care about me as a customer, because they're like, well, you don't have a choice. These are the health plans you get to pick from. So, if we're not a great company to work with, tough, But other benefits, I've often felt like there's an attempt to be more, and I'm sorry to all the health insurance people if they disagree. Come on the show and argue with me about it. That's fine. But I've felt like in the other kinds of benefits that have been on the menu as an employee, there seemed to be more of an attempt to engage. So when you talk about like decision support and helping people decide and then take advantage of the various coverage that they bought, or the products that they bought, it feels like there's an attempt to sort of reach over to the employee and help them there. But you're so far away, because like they didn't choose who they could pick from. They just got the options and then had to pick it. I don't even know how you would balance something like that. I'm so used to the PNC side, where it's like you go to market and you can pick from all the carriers that are licensed in those lines,
Right.
and then you have your relationship with them. But it's a much more direct connection, I think, to the selection.
Yeah, I think, if you compare health insurance, when you go to the doctor, you don't have to get any money back, right? The insurance company pays for the claim, the doctor gets paid, and we're out. I pay my copay or whatever, and I walk out the
Right.
door. Whereas with voluntary benefits, I'm the one that gets paid. So
Mm,
I have to file the claim, I have to get the documentation. And so I think there's more of a, we have to target the employee for those, to remind them, hey, you bought this benefit, don't forget to use it. How do we make it easy for them to get their money? And I think eventually we will be auto pay, where they go to the doctor, there's enough data and data sharing behind the scenes, where we'll be able to just pay that employee just like medical, except paying
yeah.
the doctor, you pay the employee. But yeah, it's a different I guess dichotomy from the medical to the voluntary benefits, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, that's an interesting point, that it's like, there is more customer engagement because there has to be, because of the nature of the claim.
Yep.
But then at the same time, it's like, wouldn't it be nice if there didn't have to be? Because, there's all this data sharing, and you just got the money when you were supposed to get the money. And I
Yeah,
feel
we
like
have
everyone's
Venmo, by the
skeptical
way.
about that. But yeah, right. You just so much easier. But okay, I, I feel bad. I feel like I'm asking you to educate me on the space so much. But so tell us a little bit about their specific products that Aflac is very known for and has expanded out into. So what's sort of the sweet spot of the core offering from Aflac?
Yep. So Aflac's always had well, not always, but we have really two different ways to approach the market. So we have individual products still, which are direct one-on-one. I own the policy, I'm an individual. And then we have the group market, which is really where my space is,
Yeah.
where we're working through brokers to employers and providing employees with those products. And so in that space, our core products are accident, critical illness, and hospital indemnity. We also have life and disability, we have absence, and now we've added pet, partnering with Trupanion. And so, that's a space where we've grown. This was, we're outpaced the individual new sales now, because group is really what employers are looking for. They want that easy experience, easy to enroll online, easy to enroll on platforms, no evidence of insurability. Make it easy is definitely the key word when it comes to voluntary benefits.
Yeah.
So we're, as carriers, we're all trying to figure out, how do we become easier to work with, and these tech platforms are a huge way to do that.
All right. So now I feel like we can get into what you actually do, now that you give me the background
Okay.
on the space a bit. But so you're recently in a different role, and I know sort of building from a focus and from work you've been doing, but tell us a little bit about that. And when you talk about making that interaction easier, is that ultimately the crux of the work that you're doing? Like, what are you focused on evolving for the space?
Yeah, you nailed it at the beginning, Brian, when you mentioned that, we see platforms as a distribution arm for Aflac. So I learned from working at the platforms that employers now, they're going to come to their technology partner first. If they're saying, you know what, maybe we should add accident CI, HI, or one of those products, before they go to the carriers, sometimes before they go to their broker, they're going to that platform and say, who works well on your platform? Who am I not going to have any issues with? Who makes it easy for the employee? Who provides the data? Who can give me a tech credit sometimes, depending on the platform. And so we at Aflac have to treat those platforms as a distributor, just like a broker partner or a direct. I mean, they are representing us in the market. They're recommending us in the market. So our whole role is to say, what can we do to make our products fit better, to have a better partnership? And so we're on probably 150 different platforms, but there's probably 30 or so that are really core to our business.
Yeah.
And so we invest a lot of time and effort in the relationship because it's never easy. Something is going to go wrong when you're working with technology and insurance. It's not an easy process. But if you have that relationship where you can pick up the phone and, hey, Joe, what happened with ABC company? How do we fix it? That matters.
Is there a bit of reinventing the wheel? Like, I had another partnership kind of conversation on the PNC side, and that was the big warning is like, on your end, you can't do things so that every single relationship is like a custom build, custom deployment, custom relationship, because at 130, 150, whatever the number is, it's totally unscalable. Even at 30, it's not really scalable, even for a large, well-resourced company.
It's a balance, right? Because as soon as you put something in a box, someone wants something outside of the box. So what we've tried to do is just simplify. Say, instead of offering 10,000 to 150,000, you offer a 10, a 50, and 100, and employees can pick. So it's taking, because it used to be about that, right? Individualization, giving them all of the options, and we're not going to sell unless we have all of this variety. And now you're not going to sell unless you're simple. And I think employees appreciate that. If they want a complex product, they can go buy an individual product, but when you're looking at benefits through the employer, and recently I've done this through my kids' eyes because they're newly out of college and they're picking their benefits and they're so confused. And it just reminds me how much we have to simplify that process.
Yeah. I'm just taken back to my first benefits and it was all on paper.
Yeah.
But,
oh yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know anything at all. And it's definitely, technology helps.
Yeah.
But still, if you have incredibly complex options and sort of like a grid, you need to draw out the matrix of everything. It's great. You've really customized coverage, but it's overwhelming. And so I think people probably just end up opting out.
Well, and that's where the decision support tools and the new companies like the NIAs of the world come into play, right? They're taking the data behind the scenes if they have permission to use it. And then they're really just asking some simple questions and helping people choose, because everyone wants Amazon, like Amazon, choose my benefits for me, Alexa, pick my benefits. And we're not there, and regulations won't probably allow us to quite get there.
Yeah.
But think about it from an employee perspective. I'm like, when I went to the doctor, how many kids I have, all my data. So make it easy for me. Just help me choose.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge focus. So you talk about APIs. I would say APIs, decision support tools, and then claims like automation are the three hot topics right now.
Well, talk to me about the decision support a little bit more, because I was thinking that would be a huge focus for Aflac or for any of your competitors. But then I'm also like, well, if you're in these platforms, they can't have 50 different decision support tools for each of the coverages and then all of the options. So is it more like there are providers out there that you partner with that cover everything, or is that on the platform? Like who owns the decision support question?
Great question. It's a little both, depends on the platform. So some platforms have gone the route where they say, we're going to build it. We're going to build our own tool. And most of them started with a tool for medical to help employees say, okay, do I take the high deductible plan or do I take the PPO? What plan is right for me? Yeah. And they're now expanding that into voluntary benefits. So the platform itself, like Business Solver, has their own where it's all of the benefits. And so what they do is when you answer these questions, they give you here's your recommended package. Employees still has to go in and say, yes, I want those.
Yes.
But it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
And then there's other platforms who are saying, we're not going to invest in that. It's too complex or it's not our space. And so they're partnering with outside people that do decision support. So you've got your NIAs, your Jellyvisions, your Pickwells who are creating the tool, and then they can either be a standalone tool or they can integrate in with the platform if the platform is willing to pull it in. So those are the two routes that people are going. And voluntary is slowly being added. Some of them have had voluntary along, and some of them, more of the platform built ones, are starting to add the voluntary piece.
Yeah. But for Aflac, you have to play with both the platform and the decision support tool if it's not one and the same.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for us to play with the decision support tool. They just build their plans into their tool. So it's more if employers, want to have it, want to add it, and we encourage it, because again, the more we can give employees from an education perspective, the better they're going to understand their products that they bought.
Can we jump into claims?
Sure.
I always jump into claims. So I'm excited to do that. So it feels like, I mean, like you're saying, is like, it's sort of factual, like this happened, these bills were paid, they fall within the plan, so you get your money back, or you get, whatever the benefit is tied to that. Sounds really easy, but there's always complications, there's process, people want to be paid differently, or the bills all look different, or whatever. Like, what are the complexities that maybe especially in the pandemic, but going forward, that you've been focusing on trying to solve to make that smoother? Like, what is it you're trying to get to, and where do you focus your efforts?
So ease of filing a claim is obviously a focus, right? So how do we make it easier for them to file the claim? Because unlike medical, like we talked about, the employee has to get some data submitted on a claim form, even if it's, uploading it on your phone.
Yeah.
You still have to send us the data, say, hey, I'm filing a claim. And so the nirvana of that is you have my data, my medical data, and so just pay me. Right? If you saw I went into the hospital, broke my leg, and I have accident insurance, yeah, my hospital bill is covered by my medical, but I have accident, so just know that I have it and pay me. And there's a lot behind the scenes on that. Everyone's trying to figure that out right now, Brian, because you have to have permission. You have to have permission from the medical provider or the health insurance. You have to have permission from the employer. You have to have permission from the employee. Because some people I don't want you to know when I'm in the hospital,
Right. Right.
So everyone's kind of trying to figure that out right now of how do we get as much data as we can and at least make that claim process. Maybe we just nudge people and say, and there's platforms out there that will do that. So you know what? It looks like you're eligible for a claim and not, disclose all of the details or not auto pay it. Because there's an expense to that too, right? From an insurance perspective, we expect to pay out so many claims. Well, if we're starting to nudge people, we're probably going to pay a lot more claims, which is good for the employees. But what does that do to product pricing and all of the behind the scenes factors? So there's a lot going on in that space, and it's all going to be good for the end consumer, which is ultimately what we all want anyhow. It's just trying to figure out the business. How do we make it work from a business perspective?
Does the subject of parametric come up at all? So like, if we know the criteria that has to be met for payment to be triggered, and we can access these data platforms, the hospital system and the health insurer, whatever else. So like, if true, it just triggers payment automatically.
Well, that's what we're trying to get to.
That's what you're
I
trying to
think
get.
it's easier
It
than
sounds like parametric in a
I
sense.
don't know. Is that a PNC term?
Yeah. It's when like criteria are met. It's criteria based or parameterized insurance.
Yeah.
So if the parameter is met and it's third party openly verifiable. So like city of Boston years ago, we had a massive snowfall year, 2014-15. They bought parametric insurance that if so much snow or more fell, they would get paid out for that overage to cover the plowing costs. And that year, like we had 100 and some odd inches. And so like it paid out, I think over 80 inches or 90 inches, something like that. So like, and there's
kind
other
similar concept.
Hurricane, if it's, this rating or higher and you're this far from the coast or closer, automatically just pays out some fixed amount. It's not adjusted, it's just a fixed amount. Like,
Ours is based on ICD-9 codes pretty much. So what is the, doctor file? And then does that qualify for one of the things that we would pay out on? But interesting.
All right. I gotta hang up my PNC hat. It's not fair to you.
Don't pull me down that path.
No, we'll corrupt you. But the other one was APIs, right? For the third kind of leg. So, and you said that's kind of the go forward. Where's the industry as a whole on that right now? Because PNC is also struggling there. You're not the only ones. But it's like, well, we got to get in the cloud. We got to get our APIs in a better place. We need the people on the other side of the equation to be ready for it and to be clear. Where do you think your total space is on that journey, and where are people focusing the conversation of these are the things we want to have APIs doing?
Yep, great question. So I put it into probably 3 or 4 buckets. So API is application programming interface, which is a way to get the data from one place to the other faster. And so today we have files, we have EDI files where we're transferring data. We want to get rid of those and automate that, right? And so there's a couple of different buckets. The first one that most people really want is the Evidence of Insurability Api. So when I'm applying for life or disability, I answer those extra medical questions, give me an automatic response. And so that's one that's up and running. A lot of carriers are using it. It definitely improves the employee experience because they know immediately, and it's all within their platform. So they don't have to go somewhere else. It's just an immediate answer. So that one's, I think, in progress.
That's a non-issue for the individual side, right? Because people are on your site or working with some other distributor. And so
Yeah, it's all group.
This is all group issue. Okay.
Yep. And then the other three that are still kind of out there, there's an Enrollment API, which is taking the enrollment data from a Ben admin, like a Benefit Harbor, and sending it over to the carrier. And so today, like I said, that's on an EDI file. And we now have, there's a LIMRA LDEC standard that's been put out there that helps a little bit, because in the past it was like, well, do you use our API? Do we use your API?
Right.
Whose endpoints are we using? You know, and so now, at least with this standard, for those that choose to use it, we're all speaking the same language.
Yeah.
So I would say the Enrollment API is the one that's probably just now kind of ramping up with platforms and carriers. And then the last big one is really the Plan Build API. So that's where I think there's the most benefit, especially in those platforms. So we have platforms where the broker themselves is actually building our products, as opposed to a software as a service company where they have internal people building.
Yeah.
So if we can take the data from our proposal system and automatically send it to, you know, that platform, and it builds probably 80% of it, that takes away so much human possibility for error, just time back and forth, testing. So that the Plan Build APIs, I think, are going to be the biggest bang for our buck. It's just, we're trying to figure out the standards, because there's so much variability there. And to your point, what can the platforms accept? What can we send them? So we're working on figuring those out.
Can you do some future telling for us?
Okay.
I mean, I know those are things that are still brewing and being worked on. Where do you see, from a customer experience, a process, even a product side, where do you see things going in your space? Do you think, and one of the things I'm most curious about is, we talk a lot about process innovation and taking out friction, and that's all good. I'm not against any of that. But someone on LinkedIn just challenged the idea of what is innovation the other day. And he's like, products haven't changed. And I don't know that I 100% agree with him, or 100% in every place, but it's a fair point. It's like, well, we're still doing the same thing. We're just finding slightly better ways to do it, which is fine. But do you see it really just around the experience and the ways that we're interacting with coverage? Do you see the products themselves evolving? Do you think we just don't know yet, because like there's too many variables, and when they come together, that may present a possibility for new coverage? I don't know. I'm just curious what your take is, kind of looking out 5-ish years or whatever the horizon is.
I think it all has to change, Brian. I mean, we can't stay where we've been, you know, and COVID was good for our industry because it pushed us to be a little more innovative, to realize that, hey, we don't have to take 5 years to do something. We can do things quickly. So I do think experience is going to be the number one thing, is adapting to what employees, how they want to do business with us. So whether it is through Alexa, whether it's through Venmo, whether it's through, you know, who knows, right? What's the next big thing from how employees want to be? TikTok, right? We're going to be doing role meetings on TikTok. Who knows? But I did Google TikTok and insurance. There's not a lot out there. So
no, I think I know the two people who were big on TikTok and insurance.
More in P&C. There's hardly anything in the life and health space. But so I think experience will continue to drive at least innovation on our side. It's how do we make it easier for our employer clients? How do we give more data to our broker clients? I think data is the king going forward, right? So whether it's, to your point, you have the medical data and we can, whatever word you use, pay the claims, or we have the data to prove that our products are valuable to the employees. Mm-hmm. You know, in the past, that was all kind of, just trust us. And now you're going to have employer portals where they can go get the self-service is going to be key too. You know, and the role of the brokers changing. You know, some people challenge, brokers are going away. No, they're just having to add more, you know, tricks to their list, because now it's, help me with my insurance products, but also help me with technology, not just enrollment technology, but wellness, help me with my compliance. You know, so they're having to expand the services that they're offering and becoming more valuable than in the past, I think. So that's why it's fun, is there's constant change. Products, they'll change and evolve. We're all trying to scramble to figure out what's the next big thing. You know, right now it's looking at, do we combine products? So we have a product called BenExtend, where it's CIX and HI all in one. So you have all three.
Wait, what are both of those things? CIX?
Sorry, critical illness, accident, and hospital indemnity.
Okay,
I speak
got it.
too quickly sometimes.
No, it's okay. Got it.
But it's just, one product with all three of those kind of rolled into one. So we'll see.
It's really interesting for me thinking back on all of the points when I've had to make my selections or elections, whatever the right word, elections, right?
Elections, yep.
Or my selections during election, I don't know. And then now I'm a solopreneur, and so I was talking to another benefits insurer the other day, and I was bemoaning this. I was like, you got to come up with something for solopreneurs. And he's like, well, legally, a company of one where the owner is the employee doesn't count, and that's like a legal issue. It's not that the carrier couldn't solve for it, because they have individual products as well.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, that's fascinating. And if you think about, to your point, like Venmo or whatever else, and we don't know what whatever is yet, the way people work and the way that their employment is structured and their company, like gig economy and whatever else, it's like, again, COVID, like huge explosion in the start of new businesses, and a lot of them are sole proprietorships. It just changes the nature of what a unit of, like, what a group could be.
Right.
And I think, like, from my perspective, I hope that there's also a change for, it's not individual, it's not traditional group, but it's this kind of new way that people are working that also need to be served and have, like, I'm an insurance guy, so I'm going to overbuy insurance products.
Yep.
But I can't, like I can't even access a lot of them. And I think that's a really interesting kind of middle space that right now it sounds like there's a blocker to serving in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think we have a bit of an advantage there, to your point, because we have individual and group products. So if somebody says, hey, I want to offer something to my contract workers, my gig workers, we have those individual products, but it is a little bit different. There isn't kind of that hybrid in the middle. And you look at the studies, and Limmer just came out with one that said by 2026, 50% of the workers will be gig or contractors, which I've surveyed our brokers and employers that I've talked to, and they're like, no. So it'll be interesting to see how that really plays out. But we're absolutely looking at that space. How do we provide benefits to those types of folks?
Yeah. Well, and I know when people are like, oh, that'll never, like, I always bring up the story when I first joined insurance, and someone's like, the internet, like all brokers and agents are going to be gone soon. It's like, well, they're not, but okay, even if it's like 10% lower. So even if it's not 50% of people, but what if it's 30%? That's still a huge shift from the way things have happened in the past. Market opportunity, like, it's different, and they need to be served.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, my favorite event all year is InsurTech, because you go and it's all those startups, and they all have these fresh ideas about how they can support our industry and what's next. And it's just, it brings so much energy, because it's like, all right, this is the future of insurance right here. It's fun.
Do you find that it's, it has a very strong P&C focus. Do you find that there are things then that aren't as relevant for what you're doing, or is it more like analogs that give you ideas, even if those things aren't relevant, or are there things specific to your space?
There's definitely things specific to the health space. And actually this year, for the first time, I feel like I'm doing a commercial for them, but they're siphoning it off. So they're having a whole kind of separate track just for life.
I saw that. Yeah.
Which will make it a lot easier for me to pick and choose the right ones. But even going in the P&C sessions, it's like, okay, there's some, parallels there. And P&C has always been a little bit ahead, I think, from an innovation perspective. So it's kind of fun to watch and see what they're doing. So, okay, how could we translate that, into our space?
Yeah. I've had both of the founders of ITC on the show, so it's okay.
Yes. Okay. There we go.
We're all friends. It's all right.
I market it all the time.
Yeah. Well, it is one of those things, like, people always debate, do I go to this or do I go? That's the one thing. It's like, even if you don't think you need to go, you kind of need to go.
Yeah.
And you never know what you'll find. Like,
exactly.
You may not need to be getting fundraising or looking for a new IoT solution or whatever, but it's still, it's a sight to behold for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
All right. I'm going to send them like a commission request for whatever.
A discount or something.
Yeah, something. Jen, it's really good to sit down with you and talk freely, because every time we've had the chance, it's been part of some panel or event. So it's nice, first of all, for me to be slightly less stupid on your space, which is great. But it is, I think it's so fascinating when we look at all the different parts of the insurance world, that the nuances to each of those areas and how things play out differently. And so just hearing about your perspective and where things are at, the kinds of thoughts people have to put into, like, what is the customer experience we're trying to solve for? The decision support, I think, is a fascinating one that I think on the P&C side, we need to be thinking about that as well. And maybe we're a little bit behind in that respect. And for the sake of our agents and brokers too, like supporting them as their world changes. I think great perspective from you today. So thank you very much for taking this.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It's been fun.
All right. And for anyone going to ITC, maybe they'll run into you there.
Well, yes. Let's have some coffee.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jen.
Thanks, Brian. Take care.
A huge thank you to Jen for sitting down, taking some time, and not just to share with all of you, but clearly to educate me on the space that Aflac plays in, a number of products or product lines in their focus, not just the supplemental coverage that I think a lot of people have come to know Aflac for from the commercials, but it gets so much more nitty gritty than that when you think about distribution and having the individual and the group products and what innovation means in both those spaces. So great to get some time with Jen and to bring those thoughts to all of you. And I do think as we listen to folks from P&C and from life and health or benefits and all aspects of this space, there are things we can all pull in regardless of which part of the insurance industry we might focus on. So I hope that listening to Jen and some of what Aflac's doing and focusing on gives you some thoughts, regardless of whether you're at Aflac or a competitor of theirs or in a similar benefits kind of business, or on the auto and home or workers' comp or specialty lines or life insurance or whatever side. There is a lot we can all take from each other when we listen in. So thanks again to Jen, to the team at Aflac for giving her up for a little bit to do this interview, and to all of you for tuning in. And thank you to Marble for sponsoring this episode. And I will see you all back here soon again. Thanks.